First up, we have Ambush with Evil in All Dimensions. The fourth album from the Swedish heavy metal and revival metal band feels so good to the musical soul. It's everything you love about that mid-70s through early 90s heavy metal sound, but with just enough updated production to hit you at full force. Everyone shines on this album, whether they're going full guns blazing, more mid-tempo, or simply showing off their abilities in a musical way, and not in a wanky way. 9 songs, almost 41 minutes of pure heavy metal. I simply can't sell it better than that. Whether you love Judas Priest, Enforcer, Early Day Striker, or Steel Wing, Ambush is the band for you. Next up, we have Bless the Fall with Gallows. Real talk, I have not checked out this band since I saw them live in 2008, opening for Avenged Sevenfold, Bullet for My Valentine, and Atreyu on the Taste of Chaos tour. I can't believe it's been that long. And it's only been in recent times that I've given anything past second wave metalcore in this style a chance, as I finally let go of my inhibitions and realized that I should just like the music that I like. That's why my weekly lists are so frickin' diverse in heavy music. Seeing that I got the 7th album from this Arizona band, I figured I should give them a shot again, and I'm really glad that I did. While I remember enjoying their debut album, 2006, His Last Walk, this was before giving them a real proper shot like I would have now. The band is considerably grown over the last 19 years and easily for the best. The heaviest parts are even heavier than before, the poppy moments are catchier than ever and more present, and the songwriting, while being diverse and expansive, is still cohesive and it all makes sense. The production is rich and full and helps add some extra power that helps to the enjoyment. Overall, this is an album that I know won't be for everyone, but if you want to venture into what can be done with metalcore, alternative metal, post-hardcore, and modern metal from a band that's been going for nearly 2 decades now, check out Bless the Fall in 2025. Now we have Condition Critical with Degradation Chamber. The third album from this New Jersey thrash band is some incredible love letter to the past and present of thrash. While so much of the band you can hear influences of bands like Creator, Slayer, and especially Demolition Hammer, you can also hear nods to bands like Warbringer, Municipal Waste, and Power Trip. I will never feel like a ripoff. The production pounds and it feels so satisfying. The songwriting is deeply inspired, and I can only imagine the kind of pits this will induce in a live setting. 9 songs, almost 34 minutes long, and it still leaves you wanting more. If that's what you want in your thrash metal, make sure to check out Condition Critical. Now we have Cult's Burial with Collapse of Pattern, Reverence of Dust. The third album from this UK duo pushes the boundaries of what can be done in blackened death doom. The album is grim and full of terror from beginning to end. Whether they get near funeral doom territory or they go full-blown chaos, the band has this style down and they know how to manipulate it to the best of their abilities. The production is clear, but can also be overwhelming with the extreme sound presented. It can go from My Dying Bride to Portal on the flip of a switch, and it never feels out of place. Cult Burial is for anyone who's looking for pure brutality, no matter the tempo. You're not going to find an album quite like this in 2025. Next up, we have Falling Leaves with The Silence That Binds Us. The sophomore album from this melodic death doom band feels like it was tailor-made for my taste. It hits everything you love about the genre, from the tear-jerking melodic moments to the depressing lyrics to the overall atmosphere that is unparalleled by anything outside the genre. The production is outstanding, but of course, when it is mastered by Dan Swano, it's going to be. This is easily a contender of the year for best melodic death doom album, without question. If you want a mix of Woods of Ypres, November's Doom, and Swallow the Sun, you need to check out what Falling Leaves is all about. Next up is Gallahorn's Wrath with The Silver Key. Symphonic black metal is in short supply in 2025, but thankfully, when we get it, it is always of pure quality. The debut album from this international band has blown me away with its authenticity and prowess. This album knows when to lead you on with a seductive symphonic touch, and then go in for the kill with its brutality. The vocals are a unique touch for the genre as they feel closer to death metal growls, while still having those black metal screams as well, which makes the band stand out amongst the rest. It gives me reminders of bands like Karak Ingren, Dimmu Borgir, Septic Flesh, and even Emwa when it gets to its most primal. This is a sophisticated album that has no problem showcasing all the extremes that they can accomplish. If you need your fix of symphonic black metal, check out Gallahorn's Wrath. Now we have Green Carnation with A Dark Poem, Part 1, The Shores of Melancholia. One of my all-time favorite bands has returned with their 7th album and first in a new trilogy. The band has always explored new territories in sound, and back in 2020 they put out my favorite album of the year with Leaves of Yesteryear. 5 years later, did they do the same thing? Well, I can't say, at least not yet. You'll have to come back for my top 100 albums of 2025 to find that out. But what I will say is this is one of the finest progressive metal albums of the year, and of course they add their touch of gothic and other elements to the sound to make you tug on your heartstrings and rip your soul apart from all of its sadness. Of course, this is going to happen when you have past and present members of Emperor, In the Woods, Tristania, Trail of Tears, and Silent making gorgeous music together. The production is grand and it feels so evenly layered, while the songwriting just flows perfectly from start to finish. It's just the kind of album you need to experience to comprehend, and I highly recommend you do so if you enjoy the gothic, doom, progressive, and heavy sides of music. Again, this is the first album of 3, and all of that should be wrapping up by around this time next year, and I'm eagerly awaiting to see what parts 2 and 3 have in store for us when they eventually release. Until then, this will continue to have constant rotation for me and remain one of my favorite albums of 2025. Next up, we have Nailed to Obscurity with Generation of the Void. It's been quite the wait since 2019's Black Frost, but thankfully this German band has returned with their 5th album, and it's the haunting beauty I hoped it would be. Being a longtime fan of the band, they hit this perfect blend of melodic death doom in the vein of Swallow the Sun, Insomnium, and In Mourning, but especially on this album, you hear more melodeath moments that remind me of bands like Dark Tranquillity and In Vain, which makes the album that much more varied, and especially very enjoyable. Mixing things up to be a little bit catchier was the right choice, and it makes for a dynamic experience that couldn't be more enjoyable from start to finish. Nailed to Obscurity is one of the most underappreciated bands in melodic death doom, and I truly hope with Generation of the Void, they will get the love and respect they deserve from around the world. This is simply how it's done. Now we have Primal Fear with Domination. Somehow, someway, Primal Fear has been around for 28 years and have now just released their 15th album. Even more shocking, they may have put out their best album to date. Every time I spin this one, it gets more infectious and it hits you even harder. The album has everything you want from the band, from full guns blazing power metal to arena rock style mid-tempo stompers, and even some ballads to balance things out. What makes this album work is the execution. There's a new fire in this band that has been rejuvenated, and you just don't expect that from a band that's been around for almost 30 years. Granted, a big part of that is the new lineup, but that is not the only reason. The band went out of their way to make the best music possible before the lineup was even finalized, and you can tell this is an album where they are proving that they are still here to stay. Everyone shines in some way on this one, and I can only imagine how insane it would be to hear these songs in the proper live setting. This could be the best Primal Fear album to date. If you think this album is good, I can't wait for the next one when the band truly shows off what this new lineup is capable of. Until then, Primal Fear continues to, well, dominate. Sorry for the pun. Next up, we have The Rods with Wild Dogs Unchained. 11 songs and 46 years into this band's legacy, and they continue to age like fine wine. This album has everything you love about that classic heavy metal sound, from the monster ballads to the mid-tempo stompers to its fast songs. This is a loving tribute to what the band has always been about, but just updated for 2025. The production is crystal clear and everyone shines throughout this one. All 10 songs sing loud and proud, whether it's songs about needless war, Car Named Hurricane, or simply rock and roll. The fact that they are still making music this good after all this time is a true sight to behold. Give this one a shot if you enjoyed the classics but want it modernized just enough. I can't imagine you'd be disappointed. Next up is Speed Queen with a Bang. The debut album from this Belgian band is heavy metal personified. Every aspect of the genre is here on full display, and it's everything you want it to be. The production is vintage sounding but still has this bit of modern touch to it, and the songwriting will remind you of the classics like Motorhead, Maiden, Exciter, but with this revival metal nuances of bands like Venator, Enforcer, and at least early day Skullfist. 10 tracks, 40.5 minutes of pure, unadulterated classic metal. If you love the genre, you need a band like Speed Queen in your life. You are truly missing out if you don't check them out. And finally, for brand new albums out today, we have Still in Love with Recovery Language. The debut album from this UK hardcore band is quite impressive, but that shouldn't be a shock. Featuring a lineup of members of Bring Me the Horizon, Dead Swans, Throats, Brutality Will Prevail, and Last Witness, this band knows the genre well, and they are able to put their own herbs and spices into the mix to create a one-of-a-kind hardcore sound. The production is stellar, especially for the genre, and the songwriting is filled with fury that you can only get in hardcore. This album goes hard at 8 songs and under a half hour long, making this the perfect opening set to see live. Hardcore has been hit or miss for me this year, but sometimes it takes a true, earnest approach for me to appreciate it. That's what Still in Love has accomplished, and it'll still leave you wanting more. And isn't that exactly what you want in a hardcore band? And now for everything that I missed, starting off with Arcadia, with Exodus of Gravity. The sophomore album from this Atlanta band featuring Brown Daler is an experience unlike any other that I'm familiar with. Drums, keys, synths, and vocals make up this entire album, and it truly makes it feel like it lives up to the album's title. It feels like there's a true absence of what we know. Everything is backwards and out of place, which brings in chaos and, oddly enough, clarity. The music is so catchy with its hooks, but it feels so strange with no guitars or bass guitars on this album. The lyrics feel abstract, though the more you listen, the more everything starts to sync together. The fact that it feels so futuristic but relevant at the same time is no easy thing to achieve, but it's done here in a way that is so satisfying to the ears and leaves you wanting more. At 12 tracks and almost 50 minutes, it takes you on a full-blown journey and leaves you right where you started. This will not be for everyone, but for those who are wanting something just a little left to the center of what you normally listen to, and it can still grab your attention, check out what Arcadia is doing with Exodus of Gravity. Now we have Confession by Silence with Repentance in Time. The third album from this German outfit is my first foray into the band, and it's a phenomenal experience. Hearing elements of melodeath and metalcore and even some progressive metal mixed in with some rich keyboard-driven symphonic sounds, and it just simply works. The presentation is stellar and the songwriting is deep and inspired, and the musicianship on hand shows the band knows when to go heavy and when to go proggy and when to go majestic. At 12 songs, this is just about 46 minutes long. This has everything I could ask for in its sound and somehow continues to give with every repeated listen. If you want a familiar but brand new musical experience in the melodeath, metalcore, symphonic metal, and progressive metal sounds, check out Confession by Silence. Now we have Corridor, or Corridore, I'm not entirely sure, with Abandon. The sophomore album from this Wisconsin band is quite the experience, and I am loving what I'm hearing. Mixing the post-rock and post-metal sound with just enough black metal elements to not be full-on post-black, but it's also not that far off from it, and it makes it very unique. The production is raw, like you would imagine in atmospheric black metal, but not unlistenable. It can be very intuitive. The songwriting feels like a mix of Inter Arma and Nothing if they started a band and wanted to make it more blackened. At 5 songs and almost 41 minutes, this is the type of post-metal that a fan can appreciate on the black metal side of things, or a black metal fan can appreciate this for the post-rock and shoegaze side, all while sounding different than what you typically hear in post-black. If that's for you, you need to see what this band is all about. Now we have Cruel Bomb with their self-titled debut. The debut album from this Pennsylvania band is a remarkable display of what thrash metal still can be in 2025. While maintaining a core sound of legendary thrash, it begins things with just enough of a power trip style hardcore feel that makes the music feel so much more intense. The production punches you with its low end and leaves you wanting more. This is an album that does not let up its momentum. It's either fast or faster. At 12 tracks and just a little over 34 minutes, this is the kind of album that makes you feel like it should be played in its entirety live before you see one of the legends of thrash play. Also, it's one of my personal favorite album artworks of the year. If you want a band that channels Nuclear Assault, SOD, Slayer, and Power Trip, check out Cruel Bomb. Next up is Designer Disguise with Colder Blue. Now this is a very intriguing album to me. The third album from the Seattle band is something that instantly grabbed my attention for reasons I already dug, and for new ideas I've never seen explored in such a way. There is this 2010s to 2020s metalcore style going on through and through, but they will incorporate elements of pop, jazz, hip-hop, and other elements to make this one of the most accessible albums of a heavier genre I've heard in a very long time. This is 100% not for everyone, but it does have a little something for everyone of the mainstream styles, if that makes sense. The production is stellar and the songwriting is just earworm after earworm. For those who normally check out my list, proceed with caution. For those that don't normally check out my list because I cover too heavy of music, check this one out and see if it can be an entryway into those heavier side of things. You just may be surprised by what you hear. Now we have Eden Circus with Erleicht, or Erlicht, I'm not entirely sure. The sophomore album from this German outfit hits a sweet spot of musical taste that I've loved since the late 2000s and have been searching for ever since. This blend of prog, alternative, and the right amount of post-rock makes for an atmospheric that you just can't see in other bands. The production can be a little muddy at times, but it fits right with a cool atmosphere, especially when the music does get cleaner and punchier. Musically, it feels like a conglomeration of bands like Porcupine Porcupine Tree, Riverside, Caligula's Horse, and especially Carnival. While there are bands that maintain this sound now, and always have, it always sounds great to me, and I'm so happy that there's bands like this out there, and I can never get enough of it. If you're like me and need this style of prog, alternative, and post in your life, see what Eden Circus has in store for you. Now we have Imperial Crystalline Entombment, or ICE, with Abominable Astral Summoning. The third album from this Maryland band sounds like an album that was made at the summit of Mount Everest, not in the USA. And I mean that in the best way, as this album feels like the true horrors of being in the Scandinavian mountains, the winters, the blizzards, and the horrors that will come from a glacial apocalypse, which is entirely possible with global warming and climate change happening. The production is just raw enough, but it can still hit hard, especially in the bass drums. But yes, this album feels like a pure Scandinavian black metal album made in 1995 in all the right ways. Immortal, Marduk, Dark Funeral, 1349, it's all here in strides. And it's great to hear that sound represented so well in 2025. As the temperature starts to drop in the northern hemisphere, the snow will be arriving at some point. Use this album to cool off from the hot summer right before we're about to be buried by icy snow that is sure to come. Now we have In Mourning with The Immortal. In Mourning is one of the most underappreciated bands in metal. They wrote my favorite ballad of all time, Celestial Tear, back in 2012 on the album The Weight of Oceans, and they've continued to make some phenomenal music in the process up to this day. 2025 In Mourning is much different from 2012 In Mourning, but that is in no way a bad thing. The band is exploring more progressive and melodeath moments with the right amount of raspy gothic cleans to make you want to shed tears every time I hear this. Hearing both sides of the band come to fruition with The Immortal is making this one of my favorite albums from the band since The Weight of Oceans, if not one of my favorite albums of the year. To make things even better, Cornelius Althammer of Ahab is now a full member of the band, and if you thought his drumming was powerful in Ahab, which it truly is, just wait till you hear what he can do here with In Mourning. The production is exactly what it needs to be, and the music is a tearjerker after another tearjerker. If you want a band that can channel their inner insomnium, In Vain, Swallow the Sun, Amorphous, and Catatonia, you need, and I mean it, you need In Mourning. Now we have Irony of Inertia with The 11th Moon. The debut album from this Finnish band combines the best of gothic death doom in its longer forms and the best of mellow black in its shorter tracks to create a one-of-a-kind experience that just gets better on every repeated listen. While the production is a bit unpolished, that also adds to the charm of the album, as it is quite dark and it goes through many emotional moments. At 5 songs and a little over 40 minutes, this feels like a mammoth album to get through due to its track lengths, with some songs being very long and some being much shorter, but if you love those genres, it is more than worth the trip. In what feels like a whirlwind of sounds from bands like October Tide, Morgu, Dissection, and Nagelfar, give Irony of Inertia a proper spin. Next up is a name I'm absolutely going to butcher, and I deeply apologize for it, Izzy Leal with Moonbow Rebellion. The sophomore album from this Japanese outfit is a phenomenal display of symphonic metal done with a worldwide appeal, and I do mean worldwide. Some elements are tailor-made for the Eastern audiences for fans of Versailles, more traditional heavy metal elements of bands like Stratovarius and Nightwish for the Scandinavian sound, and some more Western modern metal elements of bands like Killswitch and Gage, but there's also so many other flavors I'm not even going to mention here because I want you to discover them on your own. It's unlike a lot of music that you typically hear, but it is more than worthy of your time. 9 songs, almost 45.5 minutes. This is an album that is made for the pure love of music, and there's no greater endorsement that I could possibly give. Seriously, expand your horizons. Give this one a shot. Next up, we have Manigarm with Edsveren, arguably my favorite straight-up Viking metal band in the more traditional sense. This legendary band has returned for their 30th anniversary and their 11th album, and it is a powerhouse of an album. Everything you expect from the band is here, from the heroic Norse metal sound to the extreme black metal elements to folk metal sections. That just gives everything that right kind of authenticity. The production will pulverize you, the songwriting is fresh and inspired, even after all these years of songwriting behind them. When I hear Viking metal, this is the kind of band that I think of, and for good reason. If you enjoy the likes of Tearfang, Moonsorrow, and Bathory, especially the folk metal era of Bathory, this is one that you need to check out in 2025. Now we have Medieval Demon with All Powers of Darkness. The fifth album in 27 years from this long-running Greek band feels like the vampiric black metal that we should all be graced by in 2025. It's dark, evil, and somehow entrancing and romantic, just like a good vampire theme should be. The production is closer to the raw side of things, and it can be cavernous at times, but everything is very audible and clear, and it can even get super grand in the right spots, making it very, very dynamic. The songwriting is fully inspired and transports you into this era in the most haunting of ways. If you enjoy the likes of Rotting Christ, Cradle of Filth, and just vampiric elements in general, you owe it to yourself to check out Medieval Demon. Now we have Panzerchrist with Malphium Part 2. One of the very first bands that I ever heard on the extreme end of things of metal have returned with their 10th album, and it's everything I ever could have wanted. Having missed out on Part 1 before I could review it last year, I'm so glad I could catch Part 2 now, in time, as this thing is the war-induced blackened death metal that I love so much from the band. The blast beats sound like Gatling guns, the riffs drop like missiles, and the vocals come off so evil sounding, it feels like you're in the midst of the hell known as war. While I would recommend starting with Part 1, Part 2 is the perfect companion album and continues this horrific journey in all the right ways. If you somehow never heard Panzerchrist, but you love the likes of Belphegor, Behemoth, Vader, then you need to remedy this immediately. Check out what Panzerchrist has in store for you. Now we have Slow Crush with Thirst. The third album from this UK band is my first foray into the band, but I am instantly won over. Taking what makes shoegaze so wonderful to listen to and adding this super heavy layer on top of it, in a way it's in a league of its own. Too light to be post-metal, too heavy to be post-rock. It's that right balance of all of these things to create a sound that is catchy as it is devastating. The production is top-notch and the songwriting is so emotionally driven, it will leave you with a punch to the gut by the time that you are done. If you enjoy the likes of My Bloody Valentine, Nothing, and even Deftones, you are sure to find something to love about Slow Crush. It's outstanding from beginning to end. Now we have Sotana with Onos 2. This Finnish band's fourth album and second chapter in Onos continues right where 2023's Onos 1 leaves you, though this time it feels like things are even more on the heavier side of things. The production hits you like a ton of bricks, the songwriting is endlessly catchy, and it hits you in all the right spots. The musicianship is off the charts in its quality. The band continues to improve with every subsequent album, and that's not going to stop anytime soon. This is for anyone who enjoys the likes of Norther, Premier, Kalma, and Children of Bodom. If that's for you, you need to get into Sotana now. When it comes to melodeath and power metal combined, this may be the best album of that genre in 2025. Now we have Unen, or it could be Unin. It has the little thing over the E, so I really don't want to get it wrong. The debut album from this Finnish outfit is such an incredible display of genres and songwriting. While the songs have this underlying base of pop and modern influences, it is marred by its gothic metal elements and the occasional proggy elements that you simply won't see coming, making for a fusion that makes this whole album exciting to listen to from beginning to end. If you want a band that knows how to channel their inner Within Temptation, Evergrey, and dare I say, even some hints of Dream Theater, this may be the band for you, especially as we're entering the autumn and winter times. Now we have We Came as Romans with All Is Beautiful Because We Are Doomed. Another band that's been around since the late 2000s that I simply just never heard till this year. It's been 20 years since their inception, and this is their 7th album since 2009, and I'm enjoying what I am hearing. While the band is clearly doing more of the 2020s metalcore sound now, which incorporates more radio-friendly passages, electronic moments, and other herbs and spices, I think this is a combination that truly works. It's super catchy, it's balanced out by crushing moments that make everything so dynamic and enjoyable. Considering the numbers they have online, I can only assume that this is on the FM radio or at least Sirius XM side of things, and good on them for doing so. They fit the prerogative and they deserve to be heard by the masses. The production is polished to the nth degree, and the songwriting is meant to be as catchy and dynamic as possible. If you're like me and never heard the band until now, at least in their current state, and you enjoy the likes of Miss May I, Asking Alexandria, I Prevail, and Architects, you should dig what We Came as Romans is all about. If you want that more mainstream sound but still be heavy enough, this should be right for you. And finally today, we end things with Woe Is Me with Daybreak. In all fairness, I could put much of what I just said about We Came as Romans here, and a lot of it would still read the same. This is a band that's been around since 2010. I've always heard the name, but I've never actually checked them out until this year. And again, I'm pleasantly won over by what I'm hearing. But there are some huge differences between the two. This is the band's third album, and they have this fine line of sound, whether they hit the uber heavy metalcore sound, near gent style, almost deathcore at times. But they also know how to kick it into the mainstream with poppy, rockin' vocals. They also incorporate this more electronic and pop elements, and somehow even country elements as well, as shocking as that might sound. The fact that this band can go this heavy, putting bands like After the Burial to shame, while balancing out with moments that'll make any mainstream rock, pop, and country fan swoon, is no easy thing to accomplish. I like a band that can speak to both sides of the heavy equation and knows when to be catchy and when to make the pit break open. The production is so solid and punchy, and it makes for this auditory experience that's worth checking out. If you enjoy A Day to Remember, Dreamwake, Fit for a King, and yeah, We Came as Romans, check out Woe Is Me. First up, we have Arjun Anthony Lucassen with Songs No One Will Hear. The latest solo album from the legendary Arion frontman sure is one of the most depressing looks at life as a whole, but at least the soundtrack to it is pure fun. It's a concept album about the world's impending doom as we're about to be destroyed by an asteroid, and this is society's reaction to that whole situation. Some of it believe it's fake news, some are trying to do everything they can to prevent it, find religion, and some of them are just about getting shagadelic. It's an album that couldn't be more Arjun if he tried. The music hits everything that you would expect from its rockin', proggy, almost metal sound, of course its tongue-in-cheek lyrics, and the astounding production and songwriting that he's always had. There is very little in Lucassen's discography that isn't gold, in my opinion, and I really can't think of anything off the top of my head that I wouldn't give a stellar review in some way, shape, or form. But hearing his take on a metaphorical look on today's society, it's a really sobering look, for better or worse, and I love it. But it is still a dark, quirky album from Arjun, and I wouldn't want it any other way. Next up, we have Crippling Alcoholism with Cam Girl. This is such an intriguing band in a way I never would have guessed. The third album since 2022 for this UK outfit combines goth rock, some post-punk, a little bit of pop, a little bit of electronic, and noise rock elements that sink its teeth right into you right from the beginning, and it does not let up. The music can sound quite sensual and erotic, just like you can kind of tell by the album title, but when you hear the lyrics, everything starts to take a dark, dramatic turn. The production on this is perfect, and for an album like this, it has to be effective. I really don't know what to compare this to musically, but I would say if you're on the heavier side of things, you enjoyed the last two albums from The Lion's Daughter, but you want it done in a very little, if any, metal elements, you will need to see what's going on with Crippling Alcoholism. It is such an intriguing band, and I think you might like it as well. Next up, we have Dance Gavin Dance with Pantheon, a band that started around the time that I was getting into my own original bands in a serious way, and their first album came out a week before I graduated high school. Oh, the ravages of age. But I never actually listened to them, and I fully admit it was because of their name. Since I grew up and realized that you should never really judge a band by its name, I decided to give this one a shot, and I'm really glad that I did. While I can't speak to any of the previous albums, the 11th album from this band has a lot of elements that I truly appreciate. The music combines modern metal, progressive metalcore, post-hardcore, and other experimental moments of genre bending that I simply never saw coming. It's like mixing Thrice, Periphery, Circus Survive, and Strawberry Girls all together to create a sound that shows that they are not afraid to make the music they want to make. I mean, come on, when you have a guest feature from George Clinton of Parliament Funkadelic, of all people, on this album, how could you not be intrigued even just a little bit? No two songs sound alike on this one, yet they maintain a focus that makes everything work together. The production is nice and punchy and layered to make you really appreciate everything that's going on with a new listen. While this is something I'm clearly not familiar with, it's engaging enough to make me want to go back and check out the previous 10 albums to see if I've missed out on anything. If you like your music heavy, experimental, yet also on the commercial side, check out what Dance Gavin Dance has in store for you. Next up, we have a band name that I'm very, very sorry I'm gonna get wrong because my German sucks. Der Weg einer Freiheit with Innern. Simply put, this is some of the best post-black you're gonna hear in 2025. This album has everything to love from the genre, from stellar production, emotionally gripping songwriting, soul-draining vocals, and an overall atmosphere that you just have to listen to be able to appreciate. From beginning to end, every song on this album takes you on a journey that, while very, very sad and emotional, you never want to leave. Whether Whether it goes deep into the post-rock side of things, sucker punches you with the black metal side, or comes together for that perfect blend of post-black, this album truly has it all, and it only gets better every time that you put it on. I dare say this is the band's best album, and I do not say that lightly. This is for anyone who enjoys the likes of Heretois, Agrippni, and Garia. Do not overlook this album if you want one of the best post-black experiences that you could possibly have in 2025. Next up, we have Electromancy with Visions of Utopia. This is a band unlike any other. Formed by Satira in 2019, or Satira? They began losing the ability to play musical instruments due to symptoms and side effects of Lyme's disease. In retaliation to that fact, the band transformed into a band played by faceless but filled with LED light mannequin robots, all programmed by Satira, and began Electromancy. Now with the band's sophomore album, the music feels even stronger, more emotional, and so utterly intriguing. It mixes black metal, death metal, doom, insane technical aspects to make this an experience that will be very hard to forget. Imagine a band like Captured by Robots, but done in a very different style. Overall, I can understand why this wouldn't be someone's bag for the non-human factor of it all, but I do think if there had to be an ethical version of how this was created, Electromancy is the textbook definition of it. So I say give it a shot if you enjoy the likes of Kralis, Author and Punisher, and Early Day Liturgy, and I think you'll find a band that is more than worthy of your time. Now we have Hellstar with Devil's Masquerade. The legendary Houston, Texas band returns with their 11th album in 41 years, and their first in 9 years. And they just continue to improve. The songs are fun, dark, and a whimsical look at the subgenres that they have mastered for so long now in the heavy metal, speed metal, and power metal realms. The productions hit you at full force, and everyone on display is at the top of their game. And let's not forget those powerhouse vocals, courtesy of James Riviera. For those who enjoy the likes of Jack Panzer, Vicious Rumors, Flotsam and Jetsam, Hellstar is mandatory listening. They've always been such an underappreciated band, but for those who know them, they know the true dark power they hold, and it's great to see the band back after almost a decade and putting out one of their best albums in their entire career. Next up, we have Hyperstrike with High Risk. The debut album from the Seattle band is so much fun. It feels like you're playing a Super Nintendo or Sega Genesis game while listening to the lyrics and blasting fun music while gaming. It's a wicked combination. Whether it's the high ends of power metal or they write something a little more subdued in the slower songs, everything fits together in a way that is so satisfying to the ears. The production is a little raw, but it kind of gives it this 90s vintage feel that I think really works. And remember how I mentioned before about the idea of gaming to this music? Well, you actually can, as they are putting a video game together based on this album that really fits that late 80s, early 90s aesthetic. It's such a cool idea, and a demo is available now, which I'll put in the description down below. It's a lot of fun. Overall, this is a band that is tailor-made for my younger self, and I can really appreciate it now. Check out Hyperstrike if you enjoy that modern, yet throwback sound of nostalgia. Next up, we have Calamity Kills with their self-titled sophomore album. This is a band from East Nashville that has this perfect balance of modern hard rock with other elements that you just don't always hear on modern FM radio. So much of the album hits so hard for that 2020s rock scene, but then there are these moments of, say, like 1980s extravagance that just makes the music really stand out in the best of ways. Mix all of that with some genre-bending moments for those of the mainstream culture, and you have a band that is sure to win over a lot of people looking for something new in that radio sound. The production is perfect for today's age, and the songwriting is endlessly catchy. Overall, Calamity Kills is a band that I could see exploding at the right place at the right time, and with what they accomplish here with their self-titled album, I think that's going to be sooner rather than later. Now we have Matt Miller with Fiber Tormentum. The sixth album and first album to feature vocals from Matt Miller in his fully formed band is a progressive and tech death odyssey that instantly captured my interest. From the brutal growls and near falsettos of Biko Wright makes the album so much more effective and makes you want to listen to it from start to finish. The music gets so brutal in every way, from the likes of Atheist, Necrophagist, and even Nevermore, to create a sound that feels familiar but sounds original and authentic. The production hits all the right spots, which is hard considering the density of this album, and the songwriting never loses sight of the point while still being able to show chops from everyone in the band. Matt Miller has created a killer band here, and I can't wait to see where the music goes from here. Till then, check out this sci-fi horror blockbuster of an album known as Fiber Tormentum. Next up, we have Restraining Order with Future Fortune, and I'm going to keep this one as short and as sweet as possible. The third album from this New England band hits hard with its punk rock and leaves you wanting more. 13 songs, the long song clocks in at 2 minutes and 36 seconds. Just killer forward to the floor punk of days gone by. But in today's age, the album is over before you even realize it, but it's so effective. If you just love straight up punk with a little rock and roll attitude, check out Restraining Order. I can't sell it any better than that. Now we have Sweet Savage with Bang. Despite being around since 1979, this is the band's fourth album since their debut in 1996. The band has never lost its edge, and it still has the hooky, heavy, and fun style that has kept them around despite their short discography. This is what I wish more new wave of British heavy metal bands would accomplish, especially for today's age, being able to capture that old school sound, but make it through a 2025 filter with updated production and songwriting to make the band stand out and have their own voice. I mean, Sweet Savage always has. I mean, Metallica did cover Killing Time back in the day, so you know there had to be some quality in their work. Of course, you will hear moments that remind you of bands like Angel Witch, Raven, Saxon, and others, but it's updated enough to not feel like a nostalgia band or trying to relive the past. This feels like a band putting out a 2025 album. This is how a band should progress, and it's endlessly fun to listen to. Sweet Savage is proven that they still have something to say, and it's an enjoyable ride of an album with Bang, showing off how to modernize but not lose yourself in the process. Other new wave of British heavy metal bands really need to take note of what Sweet Savage is accomplishing here. And now for the last album that I'm covering out today is Syrinx with Time Out of Place. The sophomore album from this Vancouver band feels like the bastard child of Rush, Judas Priest, and Queensryche, and I'm all here for it. Combining that classic heavy metal sound with classic progressive rock is not something that can be easily achieved, but somehow Syrinx have nailed it. The production is raw and very vintage, but it still sounds so full. The songwriting is that right kind of catchy, especially for older music where the band is capable of exploring what the songs can be without losing any touch and making sure that the songs maintain something for people to be able to enjoy. This is for anyone who enjoys that 60s through 80s prog, rock, and metal sound, but want to hear it done in 2025. Simply, this is how it's done, folks. And now for everything that I missed, starting with Angel of Damnation with Ethereal Blasphemy. The third album from this German band has all the makings of the classic heavy metal doom sound of the late 70s and early 80s, but done in the 21st century. The production is pure 1985, and the songwriting complements that so much. It knows when to go slow and doomy in the vein of Candlemass. It knows when to speed things up a little bit in the vein of Saint Vitus, but it also throws in these new wave of British heavy metal riffs that feel like they come out of nowhere, but couldn't fit any better in the music. With 7 songs in almost 48 minutes, this is a classic piece of doom metal done in a way that will grab your attention and not let go. Doom fans, new wave of British heavy metal fans, classic heavy metal fans, take notice and check this one out. Next up is a band name that I really hope I get right, Bayan Ochtleave with Waking in His Works. The debut album from the Scottish band is a true wonder of an album. It hits so many elements of music that I love in one experimental package that never stops garnering my attention. You can hear some brutal and evil sounding black and death metal on one end, some miraculous proggy moments at another, and these genre-bending experimental moments that will blindside you, but will leave you conscious enough to want to follow where the music is going. This is the kind of music that drew me into bands like Maudlin of the Well and Chaodot, and wouldn't you know it, Toby Driver actually contributes as a guest on this album. The production is full, but still sounds raw in the best of ways, and the songwriting, that is the reason why you listen to this album. It's such an adventure in sound, and it may overwhelm some, but might be exactly what you need if you're the right kind of person. If you want to know what it would be like if Toby Driver did a collaboration album with a band like Blutas Nord, you may have one of the best underground experimental metal albums of 2025. Now we have Before the Dawn with Cold Flare Eternal. The 9th album and 2nd album since reforming for this Finnish band shows the band's new era in the best of ways. The catchy parts are catchier than ever, the heavier aspects hit so much harder because of that, and the musicianship and the songwriting goes off the charts. I know Pavo's vocals are hit or miss for some people, but for me, it's a direct hit. I love his growls and his clean vocals, and I feel like they give this music a unique flair in the style of music, no pun intended, that it desperately needs. Let's not forget the whole venture of this band started off with the melodeath mastermind Tuomas Sukanen, who's done some killer work on the guitars and all the songwriting in Before the Dawn. But now with the new lineup, he mainly focuses on some guitar, but he's mainly the drummer of the band, and he's doing some excellent work and is a killer drummer here. He knows when to play a solid beat, when to shake things up just enough without making it about him. Overall, I feel like this is a vast improvement over 2023 Stormbringers, and I loved that album. Before the Dawn is just getting bigger and stronger since coming back, and they're proving that they have that true staying power. Melodeath has been nice and rich in 2025, but with Before the Dawn, they are making the melodeath genre so much stronger in 2025. Next up, we have Dark Angel with Extinction Level Event. 30-40 years since their last album, Time Does Not Heal, sees the return of Gene Hoglan and company, and all I can say is, it's about time. And I'm so sorry for that pun, but I had to do it. A lot has happened in the nearly 3.5 decades since the band released Time Does Not Heal, and you can hear all of that and more on this album. It is a thrash masterpiece with some of the best riffs Hoglan has ever written on guitar, despite him being the drummer of the band. And it's so great to see his wife Lauren Christine shredding it up alongside him, actually doing his guitar parts. The band feels like they haven't missed a step in all of this time, coming in as hot as they ever did with a heavy display of riffing, lyrical concepts that feel as timely as they ever have, sorry about the pun again, and I am so happy to see the band back in full force and is actively touring once again. I hope to catch them when they come to Minneapolis soon, but if you've never checked out Dark Angel, but you enjoy the likes of Testament, Corner, and Possessed, give Dark Angel your love and affection right now. During these rough times, sorry that's the last one, I'm glad Dark Angel has returned to give their thrash in the best of ways. Next up is Escapism with an album title I hope I get right, Skresneva. The third album from this Ukrainian band hits this dark, atmospheric element of black metal that is perfect for this time of year. While this came out back on August 1st, it's perfect timing for that fall-autumn that brings the darkness and nature in those months. The production is raw, but it's what you expect from this style. It is cleaned up enough to enjoy though, so don't let that scare you off. The songwriting is the selling point of this album. It takes you on a journey through nature and the wonder it holds. It also helps that the keyboards are magnificent on this album and give already great music and make it fantastic. 4 songs, almost 42 minutes, it feels like a short epic of an album in the best of ways. If you enjoy the likes of Agalok, Aeon Winds, and Skyborn Reveries, you need to check out Escapism. Next up is a band that I'm thinking is pronounced Evocatus with Inevitable Death. The third album from this Australian band is something that hits hard in all of the right ways, combining a love of thrash, melodeath, and symphonic metal to create a sound that is familiar but entirely their own. The production is so full and rich, the songwriting knows when to be catchy and when to expand upon itself. At 10 songs and almost 51 minutes, this feels like a complete venture that is more than worth the trip for those that want to hear a sound like a mixture of Amon Amarth, Primal Frost, Insomnium, and Creator mixed together. If that's what you're looking for, you need to check out Evocatus. Now we have Fawn with Hex. The 12th album from this German outfit is a wonderful display of that near metal elements that pagan folk can bring to the table in today's age. The band has been around since 1998, and they have found a way to keep their music authentic while expanding upon the ever so grand feeling of pagan folk that has been going on with every subsequent album. With Hex, it is their darkest album so far, covering witches from around the world, giving everything this ethereal atmosphere, and it's so unparalleled. And for the uncultured like myself, it truly helps that the songs are in actual English so I can understand and appreciate the music just that little bit more. The production is outstanding and helps the music hit that much harder in the process. Overall, Hex is a truly fun but dark album that explores that dark folk territory, but never loses sight of the music at hand. Fawn rules, and if you enjoy your pagan folk, you need Fawn. Next up is a band name and album title that I'm going to completely butcher again because, again, my German sucks. It is Finistre with Am Grauen Meer. If I got that wrong, I deeply, deeply apologize. The sophomore album from this German band is some of the most overwhelming and bombastic black metal that I've come across this year. There is so much emotion going on through the songs from beginning to end, whether it's going all guns blazing or stepping back just enough to get the point across. This is an album that is not afraid to let the music do the talking. The momentum barely lets lets up at 8 songs and almost 33.5 minutes, proving that black metal can have the impact that it's always had, just sometimes going slower, but mainly focusing on the fast side. The production is outstanding, and the songwriting is a pure whirlwind of emotions like I mentioned before. If you need something in the vein of Der Weg einer Freiheit or the heaviest ends of Panopticon, basically that black metal side without focusing too much on genre bending, make sure to check this one out and prepare to be blown away. Now we have Grimness with the Path of the Flame, and of course that of is OV. Blackened deathcore is the superior subgenre of deathcore. There, I said it. Deathcore works great as a base, but I really need it to be just the foundation to be able to appreciate it, not the main course. Adding a symphonic touch to it all makes the music work so very well with its dynamics and diversity, and that's what the debut album from this German band has pulled off. Feeling like a brutal mix of Flesh God Apocalypse, Lorna Shore, and Shadow of Intent, Grimness is taking their own approach to the genre by adding what makes everything stand out and leaving you with the best of their abilities. Some of these songs hit near funeral doom levels of breakdown slowness, then bombasty with some near hypergrind elements in its fastest moments, while never leaving out the melodies and harmonies that make the genre worth checking out. The production is polished and layered, and the songwriting knows when to be brutal and when to give you more. But of course, when it comes to deathcore, vocal mileage may vary, so proceed with caution. 10 songs, almost 47 minutes of pure symphonic deathcore done in the right way. If you need that, you need Grimness. Now we have Hard Chiller with Baby. The debut album from this band featuring past and present members of RX Bandits, The Velveteen, From Indian Lakes, and The Warriors. It's a mesmerizing look at what can be done with alternative, shoegaze, grunge, and other elements. The sound creates this 90s to mid-2000s sound, but updated enough with a heavier sound. It can feel poppy at times, but it also has this deep Deftones sound as well, while still making everything sound unique. While I hear elements of all the bands that they've been a part of, this is still something completely different and hits different along with it. Whether it's up-tempo or near stoner doom in its BPM, the band hits so many levels while showcasing their capabilities together. The end result is a highly infectious album for anyone who enjoys 90s alternative metal, but wanted updated enough for 2025. If that's you, get in on what Hard Chiller is all about. Now we have Hemel B. Stormer with The Radiant Veil. The fourth album from this Belgian band is my kind of instrumental post-metal. It can get so heavy, reaching the ends of bands like Amenra, having the dynamic range of a band like Cult of Luna, and this almost gothic feel that I kind of hear in a band like Ghost Brigade. You may not understand that when you hear it, but just listen to it and I think you might understand. The dynamics on this album are insane, even if so much of the album is on the heavy side of things. Those breaks from the chaos make this album such a delight to listen to over and over again. The production hits so hard, and this is one of the most crushing albums I've heard in post-metal in all of 2025. This album, while over an hour and 5 minutes long, may seem like a test of endurance for this genre. It does fly by, and it only gets more enjoyable every time you put it on. I haven't seen too much from the instrumental post-metal side of 2025, but when it hits hard, it hits hard. That's exactly what you get here, and if you enjoy this genre, you need this one right now. Now we have Empathos with Apparitions. The debut album from this Washington band feels like it's straight out of Gothenburg, but somehow Americanized. This album is insanely tight for a debut album, and it only gets better on repeated listens. From its insane guitar leads and hooks, to its heavy vocal delivery, to its just different enough style that makes them a future staple for the melodeath scene. But what makes them their own vision is something that I wish all bands could aspire to be. Those Scandinavian melodeath sounds are in full force here, but again, those differences in influences are what will make this band have such a huge impact in the future. You just have to hear it to understand. The production is just raw enough while still being pleasing to the ears, and the songwriting is pure melodeath bliss. This is for anyone who enjoys the likes of early day Soilwork, the darkness of Wolfheart, or the variations of Be'lakor. You need Empathos. Now we have Intonerum with Resurgence, and I actually think I got it right this time. The sophomore album from the Spanish band is a pure delight. It hits that symphonic metal elements that I love so much, while still finding a way to be as catchy as any mainstream rock band out there today. The songs are so catchy and feel so lean and mean. The production hits very hard and makes the dynamics feel present, giving the album experience worth having. At 9 songs and almost 34.5 minutes, this album does fly by, and by the time it's done, you just may want to hit repeat over and over again. This is for anyone who enjoys Evanescence, with End Temptation, Lacuna Coil. This is your new kind of gothic, symphonic metal that is pure catchy and on the mainstream side. If that's what you want, you need this band. Next up is Paralysis with Spiral of Suffering, Jersey-style power trip. That's the easiest way to describe this band on their third album, as they continue that tradition, but they have so much more to that description alone. They know the right way to be able to add more punk-style riffs, when to go full-on thrash or crossover, add near death metal elements, and some nice double bass flurries as well, making them stand out from the aforementioned power trip. Also, their display of tempo dynamics makes this album such a treat to listen to, as there's so many peaks and valleys that you just don't expect. 10 tracks, 31.5 minutes, it's a blistering display of, again, power trip, but also DRI, Municipal Waste, Enforced, and more, making this a pulverizing album that you need in your thrash listening habits. It's just that ridiculously good. Now we have She Came to Quit with Black Seed Blooming. The debut album from this Canadian band, despite coming out at the beginning of the summer, is perfect for right now in that fall and autumn time. This needs to be played at every goth prom, emo night, Halloween party, etc. that's coming up this year, as this has a little something for everyone who enjoys those things. It hits that classic 80s sound of the post-punk, goth rock, and death rock styles, but it has this 21st century atmosphere to it all, and it hits so very hard in today's age. Everyone stands out on this album, even if no one shows off on this one. It's the simplicity that is the secret to the music, and it becomes so infectious over time. With 10 songs and 37.5 minutes, this album feels like the perfect length to be effective and still leaves you wanting more. Simply put, if you love post-punk, goth rock, death rock, She Came to Quit is a band that you need to get familiar with right now. The band is going to continue to do fantastic music, so catch them while they're still brand new. Now we have Spire of Lazarus with Those Who Live in Death. The fourth album from this Austrian band is one of the most ferocious albums that I've heard in deathcore, simply period. Taking deathcore as a foundation of the sound, that is the best way to do it, and adding elements of tech death metal, metalcore, and even some other influences to create a sound that is truly their own, and making the best of their abilities. And in speaking of those abilities, everyone in this band is a pure powerhouse, and they show off their chops while still being able to write music that is more than worthy of your attention. The production is slick, the songwriting can go all over with its chops, but it'll still keep your interest even if you don't like wanky stuff. For those who enjoy the likes of Lorna Shore, Fallujah, Archspire, and Origin, you need to give this one a listen and enjoy. Now we have Temptress with Catch the Endless Dawn. The debut album from this Italian outfit is some of the most inspired revival metal that I've heard in a long time. It hits all the right elements of knowing when to be full-on heavy metal, when to get more rockin', and when to turn everything on its head and go into a more occult and evil sound. This is a band that knows how to write songs and keep your interest. Yet they will take you on this dark journey through 8 tales in a little over 42 minutes. The second track on this album is called Dream Metal, and I think that is a perfectly apt description of the band as a whole. So much of this feels like the highs and lows of dreaming, and putting it into a metal context. Imagine a mix of Merciful Fate, Night Demon, Angel Witch, and Rainbow, and you have Temptress, a band that is more than worthy of your attention. And for the last album today, we have Vindicator with Whispers of Death. The fifth album from this Ohio band is some of the most authentic thrash to come out in 2025, hitting the most extreme ends of the genre, going to almost black metal and death metal territories. A vocal range that will give John Tardy of Obituary a run for his money, and a production style that works so well in 2025, but also would have in 1985. The songwriting hits everything you want from this genre and leaves you bruised and battered on the floor. This works so well for those who enjoy Havoc as much as you love Exodus, with the darkened edge of Toxic Holocaust. If you want a band that has done their homework to the best of thrash, you need Vindicator, and you need them right now. First up, we have Ancient Thrones with Melancholia. The sophomore album from this Canadian outfit hits so many extreme territories, but still finds a way to be musical at the same time. Hitting the darkest reaches of black metal, death metal, tech death, this album more than lives up to the album title, while still finding a way to get joy out of it. The production is a bit muddy and bass heavy, so I know it won't be for everyone, but I do see it as a raw approach to the music that gives you the right hints of melody and harmony through this kind of bog sound. This is an album for anyone who wants a mix of the Black Dahlia Murder, Archspire, or even Veil of Pnath. It's getting to be the darkest time of the year in the Northern Hemisphere, and this album is going to hit hard, so be prepared. Now we have Castle Rat with the Bestiary. The sophomore album from this New York act is garnering quite the attention in 2025. Some people have written them off for their aesthetic, and I will say you're absolutely missing out if you do so. This is such a fun, theatrical take on classic doom metal that takes what sounds familiar but gives it a new coat of paint. The music hits just as hard as anything from the genre, past or present. The production is that vintage sound that is just clear and enjoyable enough. The songwriting is fully inspired and makes you want to listen from beginning to end. This will be for anyone who enjoys the likes of Lucifer, Blood Ceremony, Withhand, or even Witchfinder General. The band has earned the rocketing recognition, and you should check out the bestiary to understand why. Next up is Grey Wind with Severed Heart City. 2 albums into this Irish duo's career, and they have credited an emo side that I don't naturally gravitate toward, but I can't get enough of what they're doing with Severed Heart City. The album is about trauma and looking for a way to get past it all, and, well, if you know my backstory, that's probably why I connect with it so much. The songs are layered in pop, emo, pop-punk, electronic moments that feel like it should be tailor-made for modern rock FM radio, and who knows, maybe one day that'll happen here in the US. The production is so slick and polished, and it makes the music work so well, and especially making the lyrics stand out in the best of ways, and really make it feel like a gut punch to anyone who has any kind of empathy to their soul, or can at least appreciate the music. If you enjoy the likes of My Chemical Romance, Taking Back Sunday, and True North, give Grey Wind your proper attention. Next up, we have Heretois with Solastalgia. This is easily a top 10 album of the year album for me, and I'm not even going to try to hide it. The 4th album in 14 years from this staple of post-black is pure, majestic tones over the genre from beginning to end. It hits everything from the darkest, fastest edges of the sound to near post-rock elements that truly showcase the emotional side of the band, all while never losing sight of what the band can be and truly is. The production is absolutely perfect, and the songwriting grips you, and it will not let go until after it's done, if it even does. This is easily for anyone who enjoys the likes of Agrippni, Harakiri for the Sky, Deaf Heaven, and Fen. And I don't say this lightly. Not only is this just one of the best post-black albums of 2025, it's one of the best albums of 2025. Now we have Igor with Amen. The 5th album from this French one-man band is something I'm still trying to wrap my mind around. I have known about this band since their beginning, but I've never checked them out before. But upon hearing this album, I'm still not sure of what I just heard. It's a mixture of so many genres. If you want black metal, it's here. If you want baroque and classical music, that's also here. Industrial, Middle Eastern folk, avant-garde, yeah, all of that is here, and so much more that I haven't even covered. Somehow, rather than just sounding like a hodgepodge of sound, it is comprehensible in its wackiness. That's what makes it so intriguing. The production is so crisp and clear despite the genre shifting, and to say the songwriting is anything but inspired is a pure lie. There's no way I can give an example of the sound and have it be accurate for every song that's on the album and potentially their whole catalog, as it explores so much, but if you imagine a blackened take on Mr. Bungle, that should be a good starting off point. You're not going to hear another album quite like this in 2025. If that's what you're looking for, give Igor your full attention. Here we have Krigsgrave with Stormcaller. The band has had quite a shift in sound over 8 albums, and with this 8th album, the band is exploring more of their blackened death doom sound, showcasing the best of all the genres combined of what they've done in the past in what feels like a loving tribute to what their career has been so far. If you like the death doom side of their sound, it's here. The black metal side takes a lot of the reins here, and just that overall genre bending that happens when you want to explore their sound, but never go off script, that is here. And it makes the music so enjoyable all the way through. Above all, the melodies and harmonies on this one stick out in the best way and really tug at the heartstrings. The production is that fine line between raw and clear, and they ride it so well. If you want a band that can channel everything from Aglock to Enslaved to Wolves in the Throne Room, check out Krigsgrave. Here we have New World Depression with Abysmal Void. The 7th album from this long-running German death metal band is everything you love about 90s old-school death metal, mixed in with the right kind of melodies and harmonies to create that classic sound, but still find a way to make it their own. The band balances both sides expertly, and it makes the album a fun listening experience and very, very memorable. This is not breaking any new ground, nor does it need to. It's just that classic sound done in such an earnest way. If you enjoy the likes of Obituary, Bolt Thrower, Paganizer, and Debauchery, you need to check out New World Depression with Abysmal Void. Now we have November's Doom with Major Arcana. Another contender for Album of the Year for me comes in the form of this long-running Chicago band that only gets better with every subsequent album. The 12th album from November's Doom is everything, and I do mean everything, I love about the band since I first discovered them back in the mid-2000s. It hits this ultra heavy and death doom side in the right spots. It will go into the more emotional and heartbreaking gothic and doomy sides that initially won me over, and their more clean vocal deliveries that seal the deal with the band being something that I hold so near and dear. The production is so polished and perfect for the music and the songwriting. It feels like it's such a treat to listen to, time and time again. But of course that's what happens when you have mixing and mastering done by Dan Swano. For gothic death doom, there's just no competing with November's Doom. It's some of the most emotionally gripping and headbang-inducing music of the genre. If you've never checked them out before, but you enjoy the likes of the Peaceville 3, Swallow the Sun, and even Opeth, drop everything you're doing and listen to November's Doom right now. Now we have Paradise Lost with Ascension. And speaking of the Peaceville 3, the legendary Paradise Lost has returned with their 17th album in 35 years, and they haven't lost a devastating step in that time. In what's been the longest break in between new albums, 5 years, the band has been busy making a remake album of Icon and the debut of the band Host, showcasing their more electronic and industrial side that pays tribute to that era of the band, in albums like Host and Believe in Nothing. With Ascension, it is everything about the gothic metal side of the band that everyone holds so near and dear rolled into one package. Whether you love the olden days of the more doomy side of things, that is here in full display. If you like the more gothic, almost hard rock side of things, that's also here. But it's a genuine mix of almost every side of the band on this one, and that makes it such a treat to listen to for fans, new and old. This has potential to be my favorite Paradise Lost album, and I don't say that lightly. It just has everything that I want, and it only gets better with every subsequent listen. That said, it is a miserable album, especially for its lyrical content that will drain you of all joy in life. But that's exactly what I go to Paradise Lost for in the first place. Check out the band where they are now in 2025. They are still making some of the best music of their career. And finally, for brand new music today, we have Scorpion Milk with Slime of the Times. The debut album from this Finnish project feels like the perfect mix of the band's beast milk and grave pleasures. It hits the levels that you would expect from the post-punk, goth rock, and death rock sound, but done in a new chapter for Matt McNerney's chapter of musical endeavors. The production is flawless and exactly what it needs to be for this sound, and the songwriting is incredibly inspired and fresh despite having that legendary sound intact. If you love the sound of the Sisters of Mercy, Early Nightingale, Killing Joke, and Creeper, you will love Scorpion Milk. This album is perfect timing for when it's coming out for this dark time of year, and it's only going to get more infectious with every listen. Check it out and understand why. And now here's all the albums that I've missed along the way, starting with probably the biggest one that I missed last week, Between the Buried and Me, with the Blue Nothing. But hey, that's what happens when you don't get the promo. The 11th album from this North Carolina band opens up so much new territory for the band while still maintaining the fact that they are one of the leading prog bands of the 21st century. Somehow they've written some of the most heavy material of their career while making some of the most mainstream music at the same time. The title track alone feels like it could be on FM radio, while other tracks lay to waste everything in its path with its heaviness. This is of course the first album written without Dusty Warning, and part of his style is missed on this album, but they are more than made up for by the rest of the band being fully intact and arguably being refreshed and inspired more than ever before. The production is crystal clear and never feels too muddy or too raw. The songwriting does go all over the place, but it still feels refined. It's exactly what you want from a BT Bam album. While it took me a very long time to be able to get into this, and it took me on many loops along the way, I'm still trying to figure out how I would rank it compared to the other material. I'd probably say it's on the upper half of their discography, at least so far, and it will leave you intrigued to keep going back and exploring more layers that this album has to offer. This is a new chapter for the band, and they're showcasing that they're going to continue to make the music that they want to make. And honestly, as a longtime fan since the Silent Circus, I wouldn't want it any other way. Up next, we have Demon Hunter with There Was a Light There. I do feel like I need to point this out every time, but it bears repeating. I listen to as much Neil Morse as I do Belphegor, as I do Orphanland. Religion does not turn me onto or away from any music. As long as you're good people making good music, that's good enough for me. And ever since I discovered Demon Hunter back with Summer of Darkness back in 2004, I've been a fan of the band and I've followed them through all of their musical endeavors. With There Was a Light There, the band explores what has made the band work so perfectly perfectly in the past while continuing to forge new paths in their sound. There are songs on here that are arguably their catchiest songs ever, along with songs that rival their heaviest. All this while there's songs that remind me so much of Catatonia, and the title track can bring a genuine tear to your eye. The production is polished and right where it needs to be, while the songwriting is so inspired. While I know some reading this will never check them out due to the type of music that they make and their religious affiliation, I will say to anyone with a curious ear, give Demon Hunter a fair listen and see if they will do anything for you. You may be surprised at what you hear, as this is the best Christian metal album of 2025. Now we have Feytooth with Labyrinthine. The sophomore album from this LA band took me by complete surprise. When I hear a name like Feytooth, it instantly makes me think of the kind of power metal and folk metal stereotype that you usually hear with something like that, but not this band. They have mastered the art of doom, sludge, post-metal, and hardcore in the span of just 2 albums. Feytooth takes the best elements and creates a sound that will sound familiar to those that are into the genre, but it is done with such an earnest and intriguing style without any of the fluff, leaving you with this ethereal take on what they call fairy doom metal. At 10 songs and 55 minutes, this feels like the perfect length to showcase what the band has to offer and still leave you wanting to hear more of what the band can do. If you enjoy the likes of Sub Rosa, Windhand, Thou, and Witchrod, you need to check out Feytooth. Now we have Fury with Interceptor. The 5th album from this UK outfit couldn't feel more appropriate right now. It's just this great mix of 80s flair of the AOR, heavy metal, classic rock, and almost power metal varieties. The album cover on this one lets you know exactly what to expect, and it fits just like a glove. The production is right where it needs to be for a band like this, and the songwriting is pure fun from beginning to end. The shared dual lead vocals makes this album feel so much more full and layered. And that's not something you always get in this style. Overall, this is becoming one of my favorite AOR albums of 2025, and every time I spin it, I discover something new. For anyone who enjoys the likes of Holy Grail, Sister Sin, Rising Steel, and especially what Stryker has been doing since they reformed, give Fury a proper listen and escape the modern world for about 44 minutes. Up next is a band name that I really hope I get right, Ascorian with Hollow Fangs. I've been meaning to get to this one for a while, almost 3 months now, but I'm so happy I got to it now. This LA black metal band's 3rd album hits a level of mellow black that I've been waiting for all year, but no one has done it quite like this band. The production feels so full, but sounds just raw enough and very human, while the songwriting hits this level of mellow black that's too melodic to be like Mayhem or Watain, too dark to be that post-black sound, sitting perfectly in between the two. At only 5 songs and almost 39.5 minutes, this album will be over before you know it, but you don't want it to be. It gains instant replays every time, and it's a showcase of what can truly be done in the metal black genre, with riffs that can make you shed a tear, compositions that will grab your interest, and an overall atmosphere that you do not want to escape. If you dig the likes of Wolves in the Throne Room, Spectral Wound, Obsidian Tongue, and Svartvinter, you need to check out what Ascorian is all about. Now we have Perspective with The Weight of What I've Become, and wow, that is a relatable title for me lately. The 6th album from this Italian band hits all the tropes that I dig about the modern days of metalcore, while still hitting the heaviest and catchiest aspects of the same idea. There are breakdowns that would make any deathcore fan do a double take, while adding these modern metal aspects that are so instantly catchy for anyone who enjoys even the most mainstream of music. Being able to do both and not sound trend hoppy or unauthentic is hard to accomplish, but a band like this just makes it their own, and they do such an earnest job in the process. The production is as clear, as polished as you would imagine this sound to be, and it needs to be for this style. And the songwriting, while not for everyone who is reading or checking this out, it does hit hard for those that are looking for it. This is easily for bands who you enjoy, such as I Prevail, Latter Day Veil of Maya, and Asking Alexandria. If that is your bag, you need to give this one a shot and see if Perspective is for you. Now we have Shape of Water with an album title I've never gotten right. Petrichor. Petrichor? It's something like that. Petrichor. 3 albums into this Manchester band's career, and they have instantly won me over with my first foray into the band. In what feels like such an intriguing mix of rock, pop, metal, electronic, alternative, and avant-garde, this is a band that doesn't rest on their laurels, and they will make the music that they want to make. No 2 songs will sound the same, while all being able to be super catchy, no matter what your tastes are in music. It can get as mainstream as bands like Muse and Depeche Mode, while turning around and getting as dark as Dog Fashion Disco and Polka Dot Cadaver. Mix all of that with a production style that hits so hard, and songwriting that explores everything that you want to hear on an album like this. And if you're the kind of person who says that you like to listen to everything, by all means, check this one out. Of course, not every genre is represented on this album, but give it time. I think in subsequent albums, they're gonna hit everything and put a really nice catchy spin to it all. Now we have Shardana with The Monarch. 3 albums at 11 years into this Italian band's career, and they have made 3 big musical shifts in that time. With The Monarch, the band has planted themselves into the world of epic black metal and Viking metal, and it works flawlessly. The production is raw, but it still feels full, and the songwriting is so rich and rewarding every time that you give this album a spin. Even with 9 songs and almost 39.5 minutes long, the time just flies by so quickly, but it leaves you so satisfied in the process. The more you check this one out, the more you will discover, and it makes for such a great time to listen to it time and time again. If you want that grand mix of Keep of Calcium, Enslaved, and Primordial, give Shardana a proper listen. Here we have Tyne with Winter Horrorscape. The 3rd album from this one-man band from Pennsylvania is quite a chilling album, and for the months that are about to come here in the Northern Hemisphere, that couldn't be more appropriate. The production is raw and can get a little muddy, but it still packs a punch, especially in the bass drums. The songwriting is so strong it makes up for all of those shortcomings, and it hits so very hard both musically and emotionally. The closest comparison I could think of is Gallahorn's Wrath, which I covered last week, but I also hear moments of Dimmu Borgir, Cradle of Filth, and Emperor at times, making this an extreme symphonic album not to miss. Winter's coming for us all, both in the sensational, seasonal sense, or in depth, so get prepared for an album that is more than worthy of your attention. And finally today we have Violator with Unholy Retribution. The 3rd album from this Brazilian wrecking crew is one of the best straight up thrash metal albums I've heard all year, if not the 2020s. It's everything I love about the aggressive side of thrash, with just enough melodies and harmonies to not make it one note, and not too aggressive to be a death metal or black metal album. It's that sweet spot that just hits so hard and leaves you wanting more. There's also just enough of a crossover thrash sound that wins me over every time I listen to it. The production feels like pure 1987, and the songwriting is no frills. It is lean and mean, just full-blown chaos in the best of ways. If you want to mix a Municipal Waste, Warbringer, Nuclear Assault, and Exodus, you owe it to yourself to hear one of the best thrash metal albums of 2025 with Unholy Retribution by Violator. First up, we have Abraham with an album title that I'm absolutely going to butcher, and I apologize for doing so. I'd Sung Vosa, a Swiss band that's been around since 2011, right when I started doing my thing, and today marks their 5th album. The band has never been conventional and has always strived to find their own path when it comes to post-metal, sludge metal, atmospheric metal, etc., and their latest album pushes the boundaries even further. It is also the final album of a trilogy of albums that conceptually work together in a way that I won't spoil here, but it's worth investing some time to learn what these albums are about. The music goes into the farthest recesses of what the band is capable of, with some of the most crushing riffs they've ever done, some of the strangest tones they've ever made, and some of the most melodic and ear-catching moments as well. When you look at the context, everything does make sense, even if it doesn't seem like it would. The production makes the music perfect, and the songwriting, while seeming odd on paper, works so well in execution, and when it clicks, it clicks. To get what's going on conceptually, I wouldn't start with this one, and I would start with the album Here Comes the Dark, the first album of the trilogy, but if you want to see what they're all about musically, this is a great album to start with. The band has always been underappreciated outside of their circles, and I've always dug them. And if you want a strange take on these genres, but also a very intriguing one, check out Abraham. Now we have Amorphous with Borderland. In a world that is always focused on making the heaviest album to date, it is great to see a band like Amorphous not take this approach and make one of the most melodic and diverse albums of their career. With the Finnish band's 16th album, it takes elements of albums like Silent Waters, Halo, and my favorite, Skyforger, to make an album that focuses on the strongest elements of the band outside of their death metal era, to create some of the best work of their entire career. While the album does get quite heavy and the growls are still intact, it is not the focus of the album. It has songs that show off the progressive metal side, the folk metal sides, and a song that could easily have been a disco hit in the 70s if they just changed it just a little bit. It's one of the most well-rounded albums of the band's career, and it makes me happy to see the band just making the music they want to make. The production fits like a glove and the songwriting is is endlessly inspired. If you were looking for the band going back to their heaviest elements of like Tales from a Thousand Lakes, you'll be disappointed. To everyone else, Amorphous is in top form, and this album showcases the band's peak songwriting ability and performances after all of this time. Not every band gets to say that. What an incredible album. Next up is a band name that I hope I get right, High On, with Kiss Our Ghosts Goodbye. The sophomore album from the Slovenian band caught me by complete surprise in the best of ways. While there are elements of the current climate of 2020's modern metal here, there is so much more to the music. I can hear pop, rock, electronic throughout all of this, but it always feels like just a spice to the music's flavoring. The best aspects are when they showcase the heavy side of the band with the right hooks that can sucker in almost anyone. While the band has gone for a more mainstream approach compared to their debut, which is much more of a progressive post-metal style, the band does such a great job of still channeling those early elements into the sound and making it more accessible to a mainstream crowd. Think of it as a best of both worlds approach. The production is beyond slick and polished, and the songwriting is so catchy for my taste. This won't be for everyone, but if you're looking for that niche of modern metal, alternative metal, and progressive post-metal, you need to see what this band is all about. Now we have Last Wretch with Abject Cruelty. Sometimes you just want some down and dirty, gross and grimy, old school death metal. That's exactly what you get with the sophomore album from this Canadian death metal act. It's everything you love from bands like Cannibal Corpse, Bolt Thrower, Carcass, and a little bit of the experimentational side of death, while keeping things cohesive and a dark message over it all. The production is just raw and human enough to feel pulverizing. The album covers everything from cannibalism to the state of the world, and in 2025, that couldn't feel more appropriate. It also comes in with 8 killer songs and leaves you bloodied and broken after less than 28 minutes. This is a hard and fast old school death metal album. If you want that kind of quick hit for that style of devastating old school death metal, check out what Last Wretch is all about. Up now is another band name that I've always gotten wrong, but I'm gonna try my darndest here. Mors Principium Est with Darkness Invisible. The legendary Finnish band has returned with their 9th album, and it is quite a spectacle to behold. It is the second album after all of the big changes that happened back in 2021, and I think enough time has passed to judge the band on their current merits. And they have done a magnificent job with it all. The band is hitting some of the heaviest material of the band's career, but still leaving in the orchestrations, melodies, and harmonies that have always made the band stand out amongst the rest. It is fantastic to see the band have this fire lit underneath themselves and creating some of the most inspired music of their career. The production feels real and human while hitting this crisp and clear style, and the songwriting is endlessly enjoyable if you enjoy this style. It's grand, orchestral, theatrical, and it sucker punches you with melodies, harmonies, and hooks that'll be stuck in your head for days. If you somehow have never heard the band before, but enjoy the likes of Kulma, Insomnium, Winter Sun, and Flesh God Apocalypse, you need this band, and I do mean right now. Up now, we have Overt Enemy with Insurrection. I have had this promo for almost a year now, and I'm not kidding. I got this back in October of 2024. I've heard it so much that I feel like I covered it last year, but alas, the debut album from this Texas band hits like a ton of bricks, even after all this time and this many spins. It has that fine line between the intensity of thrash metal and the right kind of groove metal that is not in your typical band. The production feels like enough of a throwback, but it is updated for 2025, and the songwriting rides that thrash and groove roots to the best of their abilities. 10 songs, 36.5 minutes feels perfect for what the band is trying to achieve here and still leaves you wanting more. If you love the thrash of Slayer, the thrash groove of Pantera, and the groove of Lamb of God, and even a band like Kilgore, Overt Enemy is doing exactly what you need. Now we have Paradox with Mysterium. 10 albums into the career of this project, and it feels like this band has been going strong for 38 years and hasn't lost a step. This hits all the right elements of thrash, speed, power metal, and other elements to continue the sound of the band, but updated just enough for the 2020s. The production feels like that late 80s sound in the best of ways, and the songwriting can go all over the place, but it's still cohesive and enjoyable the entire ride. Also, the guitar solos on this album are just out of this world, and they hit you just long enough to be effective. This is an album that is easily acceptable for anyone who enjoys the likes of Flotsam and Jetsam, early day Angel Dust, and especially Heathen. If you need a healthy dose of power, speed, and thrash, check out Paradox. Here we have Revocation with New Gods, New Masters. I was so scared I wasn't going to be able to cover this one, but thankfully I got the promo, and I'm so happy I got to cover Revocation once again. The ninth album from this long-running Boston band is one that I've loved since the beginning. I love everything they do, from the genre-bending days of Forms of Chaos to the pure death metal insanity of Nether Heaven. Revocation has never lost a step, and this time around, the band covers everything from the fears of what AI can do to the future to straight-up body horror worship, and you know the song I'm talking about. The album also features a ton of guest appearances from the likes of Travis Ryan of Cattle Decapitation, Luke LeMay of Gore Guts, and Johnny Davey of Job for a Cowboy, showing the diversity of the sound in a dense, deep, and dark album. There's an argument that this is the band's heaviest album, depending on your definition of heavy, and I appreciate what they're going for here. They are hitting moments of near deathcore on this one, while mixed in with the band's signature tech death, thrash, death metal, and light genre bending, although I don't think those days of Chaos of Forms is ever coming back. Production is pulverizing and the songwriting is outstanding from beginning to end. This has everything I loved about the band while continuing to expand upon their core sound. Revocation has done it again, and they've made one of the most realistic displays of death metal in 2025. Now we have Royal Sorrow with Inner Deeps. The debut album from this Finnish progressive metal band is a wonderful display of how to make things proggy and poppy at the same time. The music can get unbelievably heavy for the genre, and it has some of the most crispest and cleanest choruses that rival bands that have been doing this style for decades. The production is unbelievably polished, and it hits so hard coming out of your speakers. The songwriting can feel like it goes all over the place if you're not familiar with the genre, but it also feels so concise and effective if you know what to expect. Also, the themes of the album are unbelievably heavy with its look at the mental state of humanity, and it hits harder when you're familiar with the subject, much like myself. This is for the likes of anyone who enjoys Haken, Leprous, Caligula's Horse, and especially Voyager. This is a welcome display of what prog needs to be in 2025, and if you need that as well, give Royal Sorrow a proper listen. Now we have Sainthood Reps with Dull Bliss. The third album from this Long Island band is their first one in 12 years, and my first foray into the band. While it does hit some ground that isn't my bag, there is enough of the post-hardcore and shoegaze aspects that does grab my attention, and it does not let go. It is quite heavy for the genre while exploring some more emotional side of things that hit a little too close to home at times, especially lyrically. If you were looking for a more subdued album compared to what I normally cover, but enjoy the likes of Deftones, Fugazi, Explosions in the Sky, and Mogwai, Sainthood Reps may be exactly what you need. Of course, it all depends on how much you enjoy the alternative metal, new metal, that kind of stuff when you listen to it, but even if I'm saying that, I think there's some good merit to it, and you should give it a shot. And now there's Terra Atlantica with Oceans. The fourth album from this German outfit hits everything you love about the power metal aesthetic of power metal, but done with a much more finesse and enjoyment compared to other bands of the genre, if you know what I mean. Don't get me wrong, if you're looking for bands like Ailstorm, Visions of Atlantis, Timeless Miracle, and Twilight Force, you're going to get all of that and more here. What you will also get is pristine, clean vocals, a songwriting style that is as fun as it is prolific, and a wonderful vision of what it's like to explore the seven seas, even if it's just in your own mind. It's just endlessly fun from beginning to end, with its genre bending and seriousness to make the songs feel like they're at the best of their abilities. The songwriting feels real, and it's so appropriate. If you want a near 50-minute album of a different approach to pirate power metal, check out Terra Atlantica in all of their glory. And lastly, for brand new albums out today, we have Villain of the Story with The Love You Took Away. This Minneapolis band is the first time I've actually checked out the band, but I am loving what I'm hearing. The fifth album from this band hits such a sweet spot of melodic and modern metalcore, while hitting these perfect moments of modern hard rock that feel so catchy and should resonate with anyone who enjoys even the most mainstream of rock music. To those who enjoy second wave metalcore of the 2000s as well, the production is slick and polished, and the songwriting is exactly what it needs to be without any fluff. At 9 songs and around a half hour, this album does exactly what it needs, leaves earworm after earworm, and will leave you wanting more. This is for those who enjoy the likes of I Prevail, Parkway Drive, and Breaking Benjamin. If you want that, you will have a new obsession with Villain of the Story. And now for all the albums that I missed along the way, starting with Athorn, or A Thorn, it's one of those, with Human God Machine. The third album from this German band has blown me away in all of the right ways. It hits these levels of power metal, thrash metal, progressive metal, with hints of melodeath thrown in just at the right spots to make the music more dynamic and instantly catchy, no matter what your music tastes are. The production is human and hits hard with the songwriting, knowing when to do the peaks and valleys of the dynamics without going overindulgent or leaving out too much. It's a sweet spot for anyone like myself who needs bands that remind me of Mercenary, Nevermore, and Soilwork. If you need this as well in your life, give this band your proper and full attention. Here we have Atrest with Burning Embers, Forgotten Wolves. The sophomore album from this one-man Brazilian band is a project to hold near and dear if you enjoy atmospheric black metal side of things. Firstly, the production on this album is off the charts for the genre, which is known for being so raw and bleak. The vocals could stand to be brought up just a little bit though. The songwriting on this one will sucker you in, as it is so grand in scale without ever losing focus. It hits dynamics that fit perfectly with the tone of the music and feels as dark as it does majestic. I can hear everything from Seor to Eldamar to Summoning here, and I'm all for it. If you want a band of this style of black metal that knows how to sound grand and heart-wrenching at the same time, this band is doing things that will go down in the subgenre's history in a short amount of time. Just you watch. Here we have C. Serin with The World Outside. Wow. Just wow. This is my kind of progressive metal through and through, and I wish I had paid more attention to them in the past. Granted, this is their third album since 2004, so the opportunity really hasn't come up much. But still, this hits me so hard emotionally, like the best of Pain of Salvation, the proficiency of bands like Dream Theater, and the occasional harsh vocals that hit as hard as At the Gates or even Carcass. It hits so much of what brought me into the heavier sides of metal over 20 years ago, and fits like an old pair of shoes. The production is stunning, and the songwriting is quite long, with every track being 10 minutes plus, but for prog fans, that's par for the course. This is such an underrated album, and it deserves the love if you love the dark side of progressive metal. Just one listen, and I think you'll be sunk in, so do so now. Now comes I Prevail with Violent Nature. Well, I use I Prevail so much for examples for comparing bands of the style of modern metal. It's time that they actually put out an album so you can see why I use them so much in examples. This band feels like the poster child of what 20s modern metal is all about. They can get near deathcore elements and breakdowns, they can get as hard rock radio friendly as any band on your local FM rock station, and they have these genre bending moments that feel so user friendly to as many genres of music as possible. On paper, it may seem pandering, it may even go towards the lowest common denominator, but in execution, the music truly works as long as you dig the music that they're doing. If you're diehard against the mainstream, you might as well steer clear, as this is not going to appeal to you. But to everyone else, there are elements here that will instantly appeal to you, and every song is catchy in its own way, no matter how poppy or heavy it gets. The production is slick and polished, the songwriting has so many layers to it, and it makes for such an intriguing listen. If you want to see what 2025 sounds like in modern metal, I Prevail has it covered. Also, check out the YouTube channel Drum Beats Online for behind the scenes stuff on I Prevail, like when they're in the studio or on the road, plus, of course, tips on drumming. It's quite an enjoyable watch. Here we have Jalusic with Apolitical Ecstasy. The sophomore album from Dino Jalusic is such an enjoyable album from start to finish. The album explores so much of his strengths while pushing himself even further to showcase why he is one of the best vocalists in the scene today, hitting so many different styles of music from progressive metal, hard rock, groove metal, classic metal, and more. The music has this core sound to it all, but like a rubber band, it expands so far and snaps back when needed. You can hear as much Whitesnake on this album as Symphony X or even Pantera. This sounds wild on paper and maybe shouldn't even work, but Dino finds a way to wear his influences on his sleeve and still make everything his own. If you just want a hard-hitting album that couldn't feel more appropriate for the times that we live in, check out what Dino Jalusic is all about when he's out on his own. Like a drifter, he was born to walk along. Oh, you know what I'm doing here. Now comes Lorna Shore with I Feel the Everblack Festering Within Me. While not the first band to do this style, Lorna Shore has become the poster child of what symphonic deathcore is all about. With 2022's Pain Remains, they launched themselves into superstardom in the extreme metal world and showcased that deathcore can be so much more than breakdowns, blast beats, and pig squeals. But don't get me wrong, all three of those are very much intact on this one, but it's everything beneath the surface that makes this album shine through the darkness. And there is so much darkness on this one. It's the symphonic elements, it's the genre bending, it's the dynamics, the songwriting that makes this more than just a one-trick deathcore pony. They show how much life can be in these genres that they cover, and how mixing everything together will create a sound that you will either love or despise. I am closer to the former, although there is the occasional pure deathcore elements that I still need to be won over by one day. This is what you do to take a foundation of a sound and improve upon it in every single way. While it may not be the best symphonic deathcore album this year, it's still a little too early to tell. It is in contention, but so many bands have taken their example and expanded it upon themselves, making the genre even better than before. This won't be for everyone, but if you fall into this category, it's going to be hard to top Lorna Shore has done for the extreme genres, and to have it have a mass appeal like they have in 2025. This is how you become the frontrunner of a genre and continue to make it your own. Here we have Stoned Jesus with Songs to Sun. The sixth album from this Ukrainian band came to my proper attention after the band called me out on this very channel for not covering them on the September 19th edition of Out Today and What I Missed. So I decided to give them a shot and see what they were all about. And looking back through my emails, I did get the promo for this, so, I just simply can't get to every single release that comes my way, despite how it may look with how many reviews I've done this year. So getting past all of that snark, I'm heavily enjoying this one. This does not do the conventional Sabbath worship stoner doom that is so associated with this genre. There's so much more dynamics, and the music is more than what I expected from, and I am floored by it. This is the kind of album that I wish more bands associated with the genre and try to accomplish to show that there is more to it than repeating the same riff over and over for 20 minutes. You can write real songs with real meaning behind them. Looking at the lineup, it does help that 2 ex-members of White Ward are in the band now, which is probably another reason why I love the album so much now. Mix in a killer production style and an earnest approach to songwriting, and you may have the best stoner metal album of 2025, bar none. This is why I always encourage people to let me know about new albums, as I easily could have let this one slip by. I'm so glad that I didn't. And finally today we have Werewolves with The Ugliest of All. What can I possibly say about Werewolves that I didn't cover with their last album Die For Us back last year? Well, they somehow continue to maintain the sound that they have mastered since 2020 and continue to find a way to improve on every single release. The music is absolutely crushing and giving you just enough room to breathe throughout the album before you get pummeled in the dust once again. And of course the hilarious sound clips makes the album that much more enjoyable. This is an album for those who absolutely love and hate the metal genres, but it's done with such an earnest intent that it's nearly impossible to hate it if you get it. While not groundbreaking, revolutionary, or reinventing the wheel, that's never been the intent. They make the strongest material possible in a way that challenges every other band in the genre to try to top it. For the extreme metal genres, this is easily a contender for the best of the year, and off the top of my head, I don't know any other band making this style of metal that can do it better. This is simply how it's done.